Hello, everybody. I'm very proud and pleased to be here with you today. I'm Celso Azevedo, one of the coordinators of Technology Committee of the Chamber of Commerce Brasil-Canada. The Chamber of Commerce Brasil-Canada is an independent, non-profit organization maintained by the private sector that has been promoting since 1973 business, cultural, educational, and technological initiatives and projects between Brazil and Canada. Located in São Paulo and Montreal, it brings together people, companies, public and private institutions from various branches of activities in both countries. CCBC services and products are tailor-made, modern and innovative, providing visibility and networking to members in Brazil and Canada. CCBC has extensive experience in technology area, being one of our axes of work with a very active technology committee and holding a lot of events in Brazil and Canada. CCBC promoted several missions, taking Brazilian startups to Canada, and we have partnership with various accelerators. The Chamber is also in charge of several projects that promote startups such as SP Tech Weeks, Canada House, and Elevator Pitch. Today, I would like to give a special thanks to the coordinators of the Inclusion and Diversity Committee, Esther Nunes and Rafael Lapierre Roussin. For sure, this event would not happen without their commitment and help. Now, let's start our talk about diversity and inclusion in gaming industry. Our panelists are Angela Meja, Head of Studio Clever Plays, Carolina Caravana, Vice President at Abra Games, Carolina Gutierrez Prado, Communications Manager for Brazil and Canada at Intel, and our moderator will be Rafael Lapierre Roussin. Rafael, please, the microphone is now yours.
Thank you so much, Celso. Can you just confirm you can hear me well, just to make sure everything is great? So hi, everybody. As Celso mentioned, my name is Rafael Lapierre Roussin. I work here at the Canadian Consulate General in Rio de Janeiro, and it's a pleasure to be here. I also happen to be the co-chair for the Committee on Diversity and Inclusion within the Chamber of Commerce of Brazil-Canada, and it's a pleasure for us to have the chance to organize this event today with the panelists we're bringing to you. So I just wanted to mention just generally on the committee itself, we organize these types of events. We also do events that are focused more for the specific members that are part of the committee. And one of the things that we've really put forward as an objective this year is to try to reach out to the other committees within the Chamber of Commerce to really look at diversity and inclusion from a broader perspective and look at specific sectors and how those issues might be playing out. So this is the first event of such that we're organizing this year, and it's really a pleasure to be able to collaborate with Celso and his colleagues. So before passing the palabra, the word to our panelists, who will each introduce themselves and their experience around diversity in their company or as well in Brazil and Canada. I would just like to remind everybody on the call today that we're having the panel in English because one of our panelists is from Canada and will be able to bring her experience to us today. But if you have any questions in Portuguese, please feel comfortable to ask it in Portuguese through our chat section, and one of us will be able to translate for her if that's the case. So please feel free to speak in the language of your choice. So without further ado, I'd like to first ask Carolina Caravana, who is Vice President at Abra Games, who is the organization here for the gaming industry in Brazil, and is also herself a game producer. So Carolina, please go ahead and tell us about your experience, both from an Abra Games perspective, but also as a producer, and we look forward to hearing from you today.
Thank you very much, Rafael. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure talking about diversity. It's a topic very dear to me, so this is going to be a great talk. I'll share a really quick, just one here. Now it's from the beginning. Okay. Here. I'm going to talk about Abra Games very quickly. So we have now a new board. So I'm now vice president since March, and we are here to address all of the new things that are coming from the game industry. Everybody is looking to the industry right now, to this sector. So it's a great time to be speaking about it. So it's also a great time to share light in this kind of topic. And I would not be here if the Abra Games wasn't association with a great view of how the industry is going and how it's necessarily diverse here in Brazil, and especially because all the companies that are smaller companies, they come from universities and they come from the indie groups that start very small business and then grow to be a great companies, and that is a great value here in Brazil. So the association started in 2004, and since 2012-13 we started having export program with the exporting agency, the Apex. So right now we are on a new management, and since 2018 we have a diversity council. So this diversity council is how I entered and started speaking with the core of the association. And since the diversity council started, then this is the very first change of management. So as a result of the council, now I am vice president. So I guess this is great, a great achievement for the council. So we are working on finding talents and giving them voice, because they have been around since the beginning of gaming here in Brazil. So we try to give a voice to more diverse talents, and they are all over the country. So that's also a great topic for us, diversity, not just on the southeast, just São Paulo, huge São Paulo. And so we are trying to talk to studios all over Brazil, and we have been trying to come together with all the regional associations also, because of this force that we're trying to achieve. Our export numbers are very good. Brazil is a country that exports. Almost all the companies in the association already exports. So this is also it's a local market, and it is a global market. We see that way, we work that way. And so our companies also, they are all over the game market. So it's not only entertainment, it's also health, training, education, branding, immersive realities, extended reality. So we are working with all kinds of different genres and different platforms and different technologies and different goals. So original IPs is a strong thing that Brazil is trying to grow also. We have good cases, and we have been growing on this front, but we also do a lot of other sectors merging with the gaming industry. we are a great force here in Latin America. We know that we are on a bigger region, and we try to achieve that with our neighbors. So that is also a good thing. We come together in the events in the region. We work with them. So we have the project with which is called Brazil Games. I'm sorry, with the Apex. So it's a great project. We are growing, and we just also renewed the project. So it's brand new, and we are also, it goes until next year. And it's great, you know. So if you want to work with gaming and you want to export, come talk with us. So because we have a lot to give in this area. So the Diversity Council is one of the big things that we have to try and have partnerships, because the goal of the council is to grow the inclusion and then the diversity on the industry, so on game development. Of course, this would also mean putting diversity into the games, but this is not the main goal. This is the main goal of the council, is to achieve a better environment for people that are diverse and want to work in the industry, but also, of course, good representations inside games also is very important and matters, and will be able to achieve great things. And we have the stamp of support is one of the our conversation starters. It started that way. It's to bring awareness to the topic, and it's for right now it's for events and for companies in the gaming sector. So if you have an event that works and has on the team diversity and you brand diversity, so women, you can come to work with us, you can come to have a place in here. So I have to be vocal about it. If you are, you can have the stamp, not only for women, it's for a lot of different diversity types. And you can have, you can work with us at the email diversidade@abragames.org, and I will share the email later. These are some of the games that are good cases. We have an event here in Brazil that Abra Games supports. Also, it's called the Big Festival. So we have there, because of Abra Games and because of the Diversity Council, we have big impact and big diversity. So there are two types of judgments. So you can win the prizes for those two types of games, and we have a few cases that are very good. So Unsighted, Landing the Lion, Gravitational, and Honey Queen, which is for original people, from original people. We had it was made on a tribe. It was very cool. So Amanda Epps is also a brand that have a lot of games on the LGBTQ community, and we have a few other with female protagonists that talk about a lot of different diversities. So Dandara is a great case, Arida is a great case. We have a lot of those. We can talk about it more. And this is our new board. We have people from all over the country, and I'm from Niterói, which is in Rio de Janeiro, and it's not common to have people outside São Paulo, so it's a good thing that we are scattered all over the country. And also we have another woman in the board, which I'm very proud. She's also on the Diversity Council with me. So this is basically all of this. In the future, we want more of partnerships, one dialogue with, if you want to work with games and you want to tackle on the diversity theme, please come talk to us, please come work with us. We are very eager to talk to you. And also, yeah, I am a producer since 2016, but I work with games since 2009, and we can talk more about that during the talk. Okay.
Thanks, Carol. Yes, this was a great introduction, and I think definitely there's a lot that I'd love to get to continue discussing with you as we go through the questions. So now I would like to ask Angela Mejia, so head of Studio Clever Plays, to also talk to us a little bit about her perspective and also the Canadian industry from that angle. Go ahead, Angela.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me today to participate in this panel and also in this important topic that I think is really in the present issues of the industry. Here in Canada, I mean, the industry is pretty strong. If I remember correctly, Canada is the third country that produces video games. I am located in Montreal, where we created the studio 8 years ago. And here, Montreal is a hub for game development. And I created my studio in 2013, and I'm the studio head. I do things that are related with finance, marketing, and administration. And I work aside of the producer production team, and they are the ones that create the stories and the games that we sell. We recently released a game on PC and PlayStation and Xbox called Operation Tango, and it has been, I think, quite successful in Brazil with the Brazilian influencers. So if you see Operation Tango, is us who produced that game. So coming back to my experience, so I've been in the game industry since 2013. Before, I used to work in manufacturing, and my profile really is business developer. So I like to talk with different companies and try to find business opportunities. That's what I like to do the most. But my educational background is finance, and I'm actually an immigrant. I'm from Colombia, so I'm kind of a cousin of Brazilians, but I live here in Canada and I don't speak Portuguese, but I speak Spanish, French, and English. Anyway, so I have been an immigrant for more than 20 years now, and I have the opportunity to join the video game industry in 2013. And it has been very interesting from the point of view of work, because this is an industry in which people are creating art. I believe that video games are not recognized yet in the society as being an art form as cinema is, or music or literature. But I do believe that games are an art expression, and it's an art expression that combines different fields. So there is the look of the game, so we have an artistic part of it. There is the narrative part of the game that is really it's narrative, so it's really the stories behind, the characters behind the games. And there is also the music that the game presents, like there is also artistic development there, the game design, and finally there's the technological part of it. And obviously it's a very complex um, aircraft video game. So I enjoy that part of the industry a lot. I personally have never encountered discrimination. In my case, I always like to work with the small organizations. Maybe that has protected me from being exposed to difficult work environments. But I am aware of the difficulties that minorities have, that they go through when they work in big organizations. And we cannot say that there's no discrimination in the small organizations, but I have not been I have not suffered that myself, even though I'm an immigrant here in Canada. But I am aware of the difficulties that minorities live here in Canada. And right now, I'm also part of the association. It's called La Guild. So La Guild represents all the producers of video games in the province of Quebec, where I'm located. And here we have international studios, local studios, big producers, small producers, and diversity has become one of the critical um, problems that the industry has. So one of the problem is the space for women, that women feel, I mean, not all women feel welcome in the workspace, and there is somehow not harassment, but I think there is some, like, women, they don't receive the same treatment as men. And I think this industry historically was developed for white men, so most of the content is represent stories for white men, their codes, and what the stories that they care about. But now I think society overall, because it's not only in the video game industry, uh, we are realizing that really is the society is losing a lot of elements and making very biased decisions, because we don't have diversity workplaces enough, so that we make better decisions for everybody that are inclusive and that also take in consideration other realities. So I think right now there is a big movement to try to improve inclusion. I don't think that's new. I just think that, I think, as different things have happened, yeah, and I'm going to talk mostly about like North America, because where I live, but like we see the Me Too movement that happened in Hollywood and in cinema and in video games. There is incidents that are very similar to that are being reported in social media. And we also see that the content that the video game industry is creating has been questioned, how the different stories that are not traditional white male stories. In 2015, there was a huge scandal in the industry that was called Gamergate. So what happened in this event was that some content creators, they were women, and they got attacked by traditional gamers, and even people that defend them, they got attacked. And this was really a wake-up call for this industry from the consumer point of view. And now also we see that women are representing 50% of the players in the market. And and I think big companies are trying to adapt to this reality. Obviously, the majority of content that we still see in the market is the traditional video games. That has not changed, but there are more games that bring more stories and different characters. I think there is some movement there, but also the industry is kind of trapped between the willingness to bring diversity, but also the traditional way of making financial decisions. So I think that there's some change that is happening, but we're in the middle of that, and hopefully this will keep going to for improvement. And one of the other elements that I wanted to highlight in this talk was that, I mean, one part of it is how the industry, women and people from other groups are received or welcome in the work environment. So that's like the business to business environment, how the industry is taking care of that. So I see a big movement to improve that, but it's very slow. And I think also that white men, they don't understand the situation of women or people that come from diversity or other groups. They don't understand it. So with time, these problems are becoming hopefully more visible, and people are able to understand it better. And here in the industry, in the association, La Guild, we're trying to create really communication to make this situation more visible, because not everybody understands the issue, and it's very difficult to just describe what is the problem. And I think people that were in this industry for a long time, they are not aware of it, or they just don't want to recognize that there is an issue. So I think that to solve this problem is going to take time, but the good news is that there is willingness, and we have identified the problem, and we're trying to understand it better. So I think that's excellent news, but let's see what happens with the time. And I think the other part is the consumer. I believe that, and I have seen it, that traditional consumers of video games, they're mostly men, and they like the traditional stories of video games that comes with the violence and very stereotype roles for women, for example. So that they are very protective of that statu quo. So the new stories are not very welcome all the time because of they're very protective. I think that there's new games that are trying to bring other types of stories, but this is new and it's not 50% of the stories. It's some games are addressing these issues, and I think they are becoming successful with time. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and one of the options that I see for the industry is to create more, because creators for video games, we all come from different backgrounds. So I don't think it's that we're lacking women that produce games or other groups that produce games. I think what we're lacking is visibility for these projects, and also probably that people that are leading these projects find resources to build these games, because to build video games is very expensive. It requires a team that is able to represent that diversity of different roles and the different types of art that are required to make a video game. I think that the industry needs to question how to finance different projects. I think more effort needs to be going into that area. And finally is really the consumer. I think that we need to make more effort to educate the consumer about the right that other people have and the importance to have healthy environments. I think that is changing, but we are in progress. So we're and when I say we, I mean it's not just me, it's the industry that's going in this direction. But I think there is a lot of education that still need to be made to create more spaces for diversity. And with that, I think that would be it for now.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Angela. Yes, I think that's a great introduction. I think both you and Carol touched on I think that distinction between diversity within the content itself of what's being available to consumers, as well as the work environment and the industry itself. So hopefully we'll get to touch on that a little bit more during the conversation. And I take your point as well in terms of consumer education. I think that's really interesting. Hopefully we can discuss that a little bit more. So I think this is taking the expression in Portuguese, pegando o gancho. I think this is a great way to introduce as well the other Carolina of this panel. Great, Carolina, because Carolina works at Intel, and I hope that she'll talk to us a little bit about a really interesting study that Intel has led in terms of diversity in the industry. And I think some of those findings are really good to be discussing here. And I think talk to a lot of the points as well that Angela was bringing to us. Go ahead, Carolina.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. It's an honor to be here with you all. Good afternoon. And well, as Rafaela mentioned, so I lead communications at Intel in Brazil and Canada. And also I'm leading the D&I committee. We have a diversity and inclusion committee that's working in a lot of the diversity subjects, including the gaming. And well, I'm talking a little bit about it. I've been working the past 10 years in tech and gaming industry as well. And it's great to see how the industry is evolving. I agree with my both colleagues that spoke before me. And today what we see that many companies that are not gaming endemic, like Intel, you know, are interesting and working with this audience because it's huge, right? We saw, for example, data from last year that gaming market increased around 12%, and a lot, you know, during a pandemic year. And for Intel, when we saw, for example, the PC market, we saw that what is growing, it's the gaming part, right? So it's a huge opportunity for not only, you know, the gaming brands, the endemic brands like the studios, the publishers, and others, but also for, you know, other companies that are looking into its audience. And why? And because when we see the data that Rafaela mentioned, we did a study in the beginning of the year with Newzoo, and shows that by the end of the year, we will have 2.7 billion gamers in the world. So we are talking a lot of a bunch of people. And if you and of course, those 2.7 billion people, they are diverse, right? So we must talk about it, because if you don't, we are excluding some part of our possible audience. And the study shows, it's a good data that I have here, that 47% of gamers don't play games they feel are not made for them. So if the industry didn't, it did not change, we will see some problems in the future with the possible consumers, right? So, and besides that, when we look at the diversity, it's the right thing to do. Okay, so, and the right thing to do, and it's good for your business. So it's something that you must talk, not in the future, but right now. It's something that we are seeing in industry is changing, but we need to accelerate this path.
Thanks, Carolina. And maybe one point that I think is interesting to bring forward is your perspective as well is a little bit different, as you mentioned, because coming from Intel, it's more in terms as well of hardware. And so I'm just wondering, I know we sort of were, maybe for the people who are with us today, I think the idea was for every panelist to introduce themselves and their experience in the gaming industry as a whole, and then with diversity in particular. And then we wanted to have a discussion that was more informal and to bring everybody sort of in the discussion. And one of the questions I had is really, and I think in that aspect, you have an interesting perspective, Carolina. How has your association or company been able to influence others in the industry to start questioning attitudes and culture around diversity? And I think in particular of Intel, because this is a discussion we've had previous to the panel, but how do you approach your ecosystem? So from your perspective, Carolina, how have you been working with your suppliers, your customers, your communities or other partners in order to bring that discussion? I think that's something interesting to touch upon.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And I would say the first thing, it's the diversity for us. It's not a HR thing, when we look to diversity and inclusion, it's part of our business strategy. So at Intel, we have a Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer that look into all the business, not only in HR, in our culture, in our workforce, but also externally with our partners, with our clients and suppliers, and also the community that we are in, both in Brazil, Canada, or in other 50 sites that we have around the world. So I would say the first thing is look not only, again, HR stuff, but part of the business strategy. And I would say it's not only for Intel, but for all the business. And we have the leadership very engaged with them. So we saw our CEO, our country managers in Brazil, in Canada, and other countries talking and advocating about it. And it's very important because when you see the leadership team not only talking, but taking actions about it, you see that the culture of the company will change and evolving into that. And for that, to achieve that, I would say we created some, besides part of the business, we created some important action plans to looking not only internally, so to bring more diversity to Intel, because when you see, when you have more diversity workforce, you can have more diverse products, you can have more diverse things for your consumers, for your diverse consumers. So we have this important part inside, and not only bringing diversity, but creating an inclusion environment, because if you bring diversity, but your environment it's not inclusive, the diverse go away. So it's other important thing. And we also starting to talk with our peer companies and other partners that we have in the ecosystem to bring them together. Our CDIO always says that when we're talking about diversity, we are not competing. We are always partners. So it's an important way to think, right? How we bring more companies to talk about it, how we bring more people to in this way. And so I think it's this is what we are in our journey. It looking not only, you know, for companies that are in certain way equal of Intel, but for example, we look into companies in both countries, in Brazilian companies, Canadian companies, and understand how they are working on that and joining forces with them. We recently launched an alliance. It's called the Inclusion Index for Diversity and Inclusion Alliance. It's a global index that with 15 companies around the world, we are like creating benchmarks and KPIs for the industry to inspire more and more companies to into this journey. And I think it's a simple way to think about it, but it's not, you know, something that we start right now. And no, it's something that we have been working the past 20 years. I would say in the past 5 with more intensity, because consumers needed this, right? It's something that we are not anymore choosing if it's good or not good for your company. It's good, and you should start to do something.
Thanks for that. There's a couple of conclusions of the report that I found were really interesting, and one of the things you just touched on in terms of accessibility as well of equipment, for example, in particular. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at the demographics of who uses what, and you know, looking at lower income demographics, for example, of course, they probably don't have the means to access certain consoles, for example, so they'll be using you know, their home computer. And so I think some of those findings are really interesting, and for everybody, I've put the link to that report as well on our chat, so you can access it. One of the questions I'd like to come back to, and I think this is also something that comes out of your report, is you know, when we talk about diversity in the gaming industry, we've talked about, I think, a lot from a gender perspective, but I think some of the groups that really feel like they're not being represented either in the industry or in the content themselves are people of the Black community, in particular in Brazil. I think that's a really important topic I'd like to touch on. Carolina from Epic Games, I'll ask you to touch on that. But I think also when we think of the LGBTQIA+ community, I think in your report, Carolina from Intel, that community in particular does not feel represented. So I just wanted, from your perspective, I think, Angela, you've talked a little bit about the challenges you've seen in the Canadian industry, and you know, you've touched on that, but Carolina, I wonder if from Epic Games, if you could touch on those challenges for those communities in Brazil in particular.
Yeah, we feel that all of the different diversities are not being represented enough, right? So, and they are very vocal about it. People with disabilities are also in a voice that is being really loud in Brazil at the moment. And of course, all of those that you mentioned before. And as we can see that it's moving forward and it's getting better, but maybe for women, it's still getting a little bit better. White women, maybe, not women that are not disabled and not in a low income community. And, you know, that's exactly the same as we are the next thing after the white men, right? So white women and not, we are very aware that at least on the council, and we try very, very hard to come together with everybody. So what we want would be to have everybody on the council so that people can actually speak what they need and what they want, and we can, as a group, help make new things and highlight things that are being already in use that are good for the community. But yeah, sure. Black people in Brazil are very, very much not represented virtually anywhere. It's getting better on the market. I mean, on the marketing, right? Brands are starting to know that this is a problem and start moving forward with that in games also. But we have a long way. We have a long way to actually have things being really done. We, for example, don't have people of color on the board right now, because we have the rules of the association have to be a member, you have to be a co-founder or a partner, and you have to, usually people that has one of those things already is very busy doing something else regarding this activity, right? So you're already on a project or volunteering and doing something else. So it's tough to also give time to the association. So maybe we are trying now to have people that are studying to trying to get into the community, trying to get into gaming development, and maybe they have a little more time and they have a little more energy and voice and want to speak about those things with us, and we try to be with them, and we just launched a very good I don't know the name in English, the regiment for the council. It's brand new, so we are now calling for people who want to be a part of it. So you can be from the game developing community, you can be from IT, you can be from, I don't know, the visual arts, you can be from a lot of different, not only game development, because sometimes you have that kind of job, you know, I am the diversity people from the company. You can be a part of, if it's in tech, you can be a part of our council. It can be, we can achieve great things partnering with other brands and other people. And one thing that we can see that is really lacking right now is all the other diversities that are not LGBTQI men and white women. That's basically what we are looking for. Of course, if you are a woman, if you are a white woman, come to us, we have a lot to do. But if you are one of the other ones, you know, if you are an elderly people, person on the industry that are not being, maybe you don't have a voice right now. So if you are a Black person, maybe you don't have a voice right now. If you are trans, maybe you don't have a voice right now. So all of those, we want those. We can see that this is a problem, and we want to put that in the pipeline so we can talk about more of those things. But sure, as a result, on the other hand, we can see that every game that touches on one of those subjects, we can see that the public is welcoming here. They like it, they consume it, and it's okay, it's good, and they can feel seen. And they, of course, sometimes if you don't do things exactly well, you have to have a kind of communication. You have to be careful about a lot of things, as you do in gaming, but nothing out of the ordinary if you're trying to tackle an issue. But you have to know that Brazil welcomes this kind of, overall welcomes this kind of topic, because the community here, a lot of gamers, and I mean really a lot of gamers, are not feeling represented. So when they see it, they can feel that there's space and there's a future and opportunity in the market. So it's a good thing. We can see that, and if you, as Carolina was saying, white cisgender men, heterosexual men are a smaller part of the community, a smaller part of the gamers. You know, everybody else is more people than they are, and even then, there are a lot of white cisgender heterosexual men that like diverse stories and diverse characters, and they enjoy the games because they don't feel oppressed by the games that are being made focusing on other people, and we have that on a lot of different IPs throughout the all of the visual arts, and it's a good thing, I see. So I don't know if I derailed from the
No, I think that was great. And I think it's interesting because one of the points that I think Angela made that I found was really interesting was one of her last points as well, in terms of how do we increase visibility for diversity content, and how do we get more resources? It's interesting, as you know, as I've been here in Rio for a little bit, I've had the chance, for example, to see certain initiatives at a more public level. If I think of an organization like SPCine, for example, I know they've been trying in the gaming industry to have a call for tenders, for example, or call for bids from projects that are looking at, for example, diverse populations that are bringing forward events. I was just meeting with the Culture Secretariat from Rio as well recently, from the state of Rio, who's looking at sort of how to bring different initiatives to youth that don't necessarily have access to these types of initiatives or opportunities. I think the difficulty then is, how do you bring those, you know, how do you bring that to a commercial level? You know, how do you bring that to the consumer? How do you elevate it? And I think in some of our other conversations, one point that you were making, Carolina, is, you know, we can talk about diversity, but at the end of the day, it has to be a game that sells as well. So you have to bring a good storyline. The game has to be designed well. So, so I don't know if, from your perspective, Carolina, the two Carolinas, Angela as well, if you've seen some interesting initiatives being developed around sort of being able to bring more visibility to those games.
Me?
Angela, I don't know if you want to be,
it could be me. It could be me who starts this question. I've been thinking a lot about this question. I think the Canadian government recently has been revising the resources that they give to minorities, and I say minorities because they are minorities in Canada, but they are not minorities in the world. So diverse groups that are less visible in video games content. So, and I've been also been faced and challenged with questions like, okay, should we put a quote to promote women? How do we do this? And I've been talking with different groups. So white men, like, how do they see that? So when you propose to increase quote for women or for diverse groups, they feel it's unfair to them. So I bet that's how they feel. And then also women, they are very defensive in the sense that they don't want to have special quotes to get recognized for their work. So I have really go through this question a lot in different areas, in different situations. And I've been trying to hear experts in the topic, because it's not an easy answer. I think we're all right. I mean, there is validity in all points of view. But my conclusion, after being after having faced different situations in which this was it was at the heart of the question: how do we do this? How do we create the space for women and diverse groups? My conclusion is that we really need to make a structural effort. It cannot just be hope in the hope of it's going to raise. Let's just we cannot hire them because they are not there. For example, we have been trying in my studio to hire women, and it is true that there is not that many women. But when you go and see, it's because they don't choose to come here because they don't feel welcome, and they don't feel welcome when they're choosing their careers. So I think we need to promote the industry we need to promote, question the values and promote the industry to say to younger women, you guys are welcome here, and they will come, because it takes years to develop these careers. So we cannot just hope, oh, I'm going to hire talented women, that they never came. So we need to create healthier environments in which we create spaces for people to come because they don't feel welcome. That's one thing I think. I also think that we need to make the effort and the structural effort to say, you know what, this funding is for women. This funding is for Black people. This funding is for diversity. Even if people think it's unfair, I think it's important, because at the beginning, we need to be able to create a path in which people will come and they have to learn how to be competent, and they need time to develop their talent. It's not overnight. These things take time. And if you don't give the opportunity, we're never going to solve this issue. I think we're going to be in the same place we're here today in 30 years or in 20 years. So I think really we need to create programs that target these specific groups, and they give the funding. And I think with the time, because to create good content, it requires a lot of talent and experience. So I think these programs need to be patient, not to target to be an overnight success. No, give the resources to people. And if you give them resources in the long term, they're going to learn how to make it right, and eventually they will create better products. You cannot expect people that had not experienced, that had not feel welcome for a while, to just create an overnight success. I don't believe that's going to happen, because there is a lot of aspects to learn and to master to create a very good game. But I think it's possible. You just need to be patient. And I don't think we should impose 50% of the content should be with women. No, give them resources, be patient. So programs that target long-term, not just financial results in 3 years. It's not going to happen. Think 15 years, think 20 years, and then be patient. And regarding visibility, I think that's the most difficult aspect probably of the question. I don't know if it's the most difficult, but it's an issue, because there are women that create content. They don't have the resources to create the best games that have all this production value, but they could arrive there with time. But then is to create opportunities. And I've been thinking also about this question, and how do you give them visibility? I don't know if it's to create maybe awards that target other groups, so that we don't arrive in the same spaces to compete for the same visibility. Could be to create other spaces, like, I don't know, if there's video games, like Canadian Video Games Award, give awards to women, so that men don't feel like, oh, why are we competing for this place? No, just create another structure that would favor that. And eventually with time, I think we're going to start getting high quality products that will sell, but we need to build it. That's kind of my conclusion after going around this question for a while.
Carolina, thanks for that, Angela. I think you've touched on some really important points. Carolina, do you, from your perspective here in Brazil, do you see some other strategies or other mechanisms that could be used to promote more of that visibility of that diverse content?
It's me or the other Carolina?
I think because it touches directly on games, I think maybe Carolina from Abra Games would be relevant.
Okay. Well, I agree on a lot of topics with Angela. Of course, here in Brazil, I don't know, maybe we are at least women and other minorities. We're not minorities, but it's a representative minorities, as we call it. You're not represented equally. So we are more used to having this kind of we're not used to having those incentives, but we are used to agreeing that it's a good thing. So we like and we want to, of course, more of those incentives, because it's very clear here for us that this is the kind of thing that works. So again, I started developing games back in 2009, And when I started with a lot of different women. There was women on game development, programming. There was women on sound, on art, on every part of game development. And from that group, I'm the only one that is still in the industry. Everybody else just went for arts, went for IT, went for basically, okay, I'm not gonna thrive in this industry. I'm leaving it. So that's what it takes, The long run, it's very, very hard. You have to put up with a lot of things in order to reach a place in your career where you're stable enough so you can be in a place where you go, no, I know I'm right, I'm going to do this, and if it fails, I will know why it fails and I will do better next time. In order for you to don't break, you have to have a cushion. You have to have other things that other people usually have, because it's about, usually women that start on game developing here, they are the first. It's not something you have on your family. It's not something you have on your background. It's not something usually that has a success case in your university for a long time ago. Everything is very, very new, and usually making that leap to technology is not something that it's in the past of the majority of the people that are moving toward this, because it seems like an opportunity. But and I see this on younger people, like, I will try this, but very fast, if this don't work, I'm gonna have to move and do something else, to have the resilience, and not only on your emotional toolbox, also in your financial life. You have to have incentives one way or another. If it's an investor, if it's something about the government, if it's a funding that's like, I don't know, for example, Humble Games has a black funding, so for game developers. So it's one thing that we try to see on the market and see if people are knowing about it and trying to send projects and see what's going on, because we know that this is something that is really important. Because even if you have an opportunity, if you don't have money, if you don't have support to take that opportunity, you're going to lose that opportunity. So maybe you have something that you can have a mentorship, it's across the country, and maybe you don't have the means to be around. Nowadays it's a little bit better because everybody is on the cloud. Everything is digital because COVID, right? So but even maybe next year when things start moving again, I feel that's going to be an issue again. And so opportunity is very, very important, because once you give voice to people, they can actually pursue that. And opportunity has to come with financial support, not well, for people that don't have that, right? So those things are very, very important, and we won't go forward fast enough if we don't have that. On the other hand, it's also one thing that we try to stress, that it's better for the business. The numbers go up if you put diversity in your company, if you close pay gaps, if you put different people in the team, your numbers will be better, you will have more success. And it's there are a lot of studies that show that Citibank had a study in the US about closing the gap between Black people and non-Black people. trillions of dollars worth of business would be better if you would close that. So it's a pressing issue. Everybody will have to come aboard so you don't lose money. And I don't know, I will start just repeating myself, but in the business sector, you have, if you are a business person that make the business decision, you have to understand that if you don't do this, you are losing money for you and for your company. And that's, I can't be more blunt than that, but it's also what the studies show. So.
Thanks, Carolina. No, I think you're completely right. I think in general, diversity, if I'm not mistaken, it was McKinsey as well that had some very telling studies in terms of just looking at the impact of diversity on different types of businesses. So I completely agree, and I think it's interesting because gaming, I could be wrong, but I think gaming is one of the only industries though where you have sort of that, where the consumer, you have a small nucleus of hardcore consumers that are looking for a certain type of games that don't have that diversity aspect. So I agree with Angela that I think the education there is also key in terms of bringing that to the market, and hopefully as we're bringing more diversity into the ranks of the industry, I think also that just making more products available will also change what the consumer is looking for. I'm conscious of the time, so I just would like to invite, I have other questions for you, but just wanting to have the audience be able to participate as well. I know we have one question here that I'm happy to address. I think it's probably more to Angela, but if any others have any other questions, feel free to put it in our chat. So Vanessa Nogueira here is wondering, for someone who did an undergraduate degree in digital games about 2 years ago and wants to work in the game industry in Canada, she's just wondering if it's better for her to develop more of her experience here in Brazil before trying to find a job in Canada, or if it's more interesting for her to do a post-graduation degree in Canada and then integrate the job market there. So not commenting, I think, on sort of the immigration perspective, but I think maybe just from your own perspective, Angela, as an immigrant, and do you find that you've just given the time that you've been in Canada, I assume that most of your experience has been, work experience has been in Canada in the game industry. But I'm just wondering if you're able to provide any advice in terms of sort of gaining your industry on the ground in Canada versus working abroad before joining the industry.
I think the video game industry in most roles it's an industry that favors talent and experience more than education, I would say, because I think like the best artists, obviously education always counts, but it's people that start early. Art, programming, design. It's like music. You don't become an artist at 25. You start early, and then you develop your craft, and then I'm talking obviously about the most talented individuals. There are opportunities for other people, but this is a knowledge-based industry that favors talent. So I think if you can get experience in Brazil, I think that will be better. And then the industry here absorbs people that have experience, like programmers. A lot of programmers, they don't even finish their bachelor's degree and they get jobs when they have the right experience. So, and I think as the world is moving forward, experience is going to be for a lot, and to get the right experience early, I think that will help anybody's career more than education, I would say.
Thanks, Angela. And I think if you look to Vanessa, if I can, like if you follow the pages from the government of Canada and our provinces as well here in Brazil, either through Instagram, through Facebook, We often have provincial governments that are actually looking for talent here in Brazil. So in particularly in the game industry, I believe it's the Quebec, it's the province of Quebec that has done specific recruitment missions here in Brazil, in technology in general, and I think they've done some on gaming as well. So keep your eye out on that type of information. It can be quite interesting. I think I don't see any other questions right now. So one of the things that I found has been interesting in the discussions we've had at the Diversity and Inclusion Committee here within the CCBC is, you know, a lot of our members are small and medium companies. And so their feeling is that sometimes it's hard to include diversity into their programming or their activities. They're not quite sure how to start the process. They feel like it's going to be something really complicated, really costly. I'm just wondering from your perspective, Angela, maybe you can start just from the experience of your own company, how it sort of come about from a corporate perspective, maybe first, and then if you have any comments on sort of content development as well. And then Carolina from Games, I think that would be interesting to hear from you as well from some of your members.
I'm not sure about the question. What is the question that the media people ask you?
From a smaller company's perspective, how do you tackle diversity? Have you had any challenges in sort of incorporating it in your corporate structure, in handling sort of the human resources processes, for example, if you're trying to hire someone from a more diverse background? How have you sort of gone about doing that? I'm just wondering if you have any specific you know, help that or assistance you can provide to smaller companies that might be on the call today.
I think there is a soft way to attract diversity talent to your team. People look at the word your brand is portrayed. So they will look at your website, it's funny because they really pay attention to a lot of details. So are you talking about diversity? Are you talking that you're welcome different type of people? Do you have a picture of the team that shows diversity? Like people get all these clues, and people that are afraid of, like, for example, we have here, there is a Facebook that is close to, it's not public group. And there is a lot of diverse communities in this group. And they ask between, I mean, I'm part of this group, but they want to, I think they assess different things. So the first thing is like, is this company, does this company care? How they're showing that they care. So it is in their website, in their communication, in the type of content that they care. They would also go and ask their contacts, is this company safe? Will I be fine in this environment? So they go and validate it with the communities to say, okay, there is this big job in this big company or in this small company. What do you guys know? What is the reference that you give me? So I think companies that want to attract diversity, they need to build this element in their brand so that the minorities, diversity people, they feel like, oh, I will be fine, because they want to imagine if they will be fine in that work environment. And the problem, I think, with diversity is that it's an issue of mistrust. Like when you're a minority and you have been hurt for all types of reasons, so you're very sensitive and you don't want to expose yourself to a place that is going to hurt you or you're going to be harassed. So obviously, I'm talking about the brand, but the first and the main issue here is that you need to have a company with a safe environment and a healthy workplace. So that's the first thing you need to do. So that, I mean, first, because like, for example, we do care a lot for our employees, and I hope that they agree with me, but we do include them in the decision making. We do include them in, we're always listening to them. Like, I don't impose things to my team. I always ask, and the way, at least my management, the way I manage my team is I try to include their opinion, and it's not just my decision, it's the collective. And I work to have harmony And so that in a positive way, we all grow up. That doesn't mean that we don't have any single issue, but at least it's part of your personality, I think, also, especially in small teams, is the personality of the owners that comes across. And that's what is going to build your cultural organization. So I think first build a safe place, but that's based on your values. So I mean, obviously you need to be aware of that. It's like, what type of people I want to attract. So if you want people that share your values, you have to protect them. And you have to also, I think, first know what you want. Like, I remember at the beginning when we started hiring people, we didn't have a very organized structure. And then I was telling to my team, we cannot hire people. We need to build trust. If they arrive and this company is a mess, they're not going to like it. They're not going to stay. They need to trust that we will take care of them and that we will take care of this company and that we will build a future together. Because obviously it's about attracting talent. So I think you need to be aware of creating this safe environment, your organizational culture, take care of that a lot because it's very important to attract talent. And if you go to if you want to hire diversity, pay attention to the clues because people observe these things. They care and they want to be in a safe place. So build around those elements. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah,
Carolina from Abra Games. I'd like to hear you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Angela, and it's it's both ways, right? So when you're interviewing someone, the other person is also analyzing you in your company. So it's a back and forth kind of work. You have to understand that the person will wonder, like, I am going as a diversity hire in the terms of I will do all the work of turning this company into a diverse company, but I am also only being hired to be an artist. Or am I, what's the work that I'm going to do? I'm going to be responsible to embody every diversity that exists, and I am going to be a token, or I'm going to be able to change. So if you are trying to make your workplace a more diverse workplace, you have to understand that what you are trying to do is you were trying to change something that is not right, or you don't agree anymore. So you have to have space for change. So if someone enters your group, you have to want change, so you have to be welcoming. So I would also, so everything that Angela said, I agree with her. And I would also add that try to do that not one person at a time, right? Try to do this with more than one, because one woman or one Black person will obviously feel that they are not, like everybody else. They are the different thing. So try to bring more of the diverse people you want to hire at once. So it's a better environment, because everybody will be like, okay, this is new, and this can sometimes make a better environment at the beginning, at least. The other thing is be very aware of how you ask for the people to come. Exactly what, like Angela said, if you have to be vocal, like we want women programmers for this job. Everybody can apply, but we want also women. Like, women are welcome, and you have, or Black people, please apply, and go straight to where those people are, and try to expand your bubble. Maybe that's how we portray that, because there are people, maybe you don't know them, but they are there, and maybe the opportunity would be a good opportunity for them. So they will only apply if they know that this opportunity exists. So you have to go where they are, not like, I'm going to business as usual, everything I already do, and expect people to be diverse tomorrow. This won't happen. You have to make the effort. So I would say those things. And for bigger companies, well, it's a structural kind of a problem. For me, it's a very you have to work your business plan. It's part of your business strategy. Like also, like Angela said, you have to how a person progress their career here in this company. So that's something that you have to know. It's not about diversity only. It's about how well you're doing business. So you have to make good business and think of how people are going to work within your company, everybody. So it's also important to know that I don't know, diversity also means everybody, right? Everybody together. So if you only have white women, you also don't have a very diverse environment. So even though we want more women-led companies in the industry, it's, you know, when we are talking about diversity, we're talking about different people together and working into a common goal.
I think this is, it's interesting as well, because I think this isn't only proper to the gaming industry. I think you also need, and I think you've alluded, both of you, to it, you need, you know, the buy-in from the management as well. It can't just be sort of someone at HR. And I wonder, Carolina from Intel, I'm sorry, I keep referring you guys from your association or your companies, but it seems to be the easiest way. I'm wondering, Carolina, if you could comment a little bit about that. It seems like at Intel, there's a strong push at the higher management level to be addressing diversity at you know, in all aspects of the company's activities. I wonder if you could comment briefly on that.
Yes, of course, and I agree with both of you, Angela and Carol. It's you can expect like, oh, okay, I want diverse, so diverse will show up in my company. It's not like that. You need to make an extra effort to bring them to your company, and as Angela mentioned, you have to be a good environment to keep them in your company. And so yes, at Intel, what we did, we have in training all the leadership team and also all the leadership. We have two mandatory trainings. One is the inclusive leadership, because again, it's important to, if the manager, if the higher manager, people manager is not inclusive, it's something going wrong with the, you know, the strategy. And we have the inclusive in hiring. So every time you open a position, or every time, but you know, if you open a position, you know, for example, in April, and we open now, probably you take this training again. It's called inclusive in hiring, and it's important because there's a lot of things that sometimes we just ignore. For example, when we are hiring, we have our unconscious bias, which means that we see people that look like us, and we think, oh, they are good, we like them, because it's something from our brain, you know. So it's important to understand that we have that when we see people with common backgrounds. So we studied in the same university, or we worked in the same company in the past. We like we saw the people and say, oh, it's a good people, it's a good person. So when we understand those kind of things, we can be more, you know, diverse in our hiring process. And for example, in Intel, what we have is also, it's a diverse panelist. So each position, we must have women, men, and other kind of diverse sometimes to decide about it. Even if the person, the position, we will only report to with one person, we always trying to bring the diversity panelists, because we can like mitigate this unconscious bias thing. Other thing that we do, it's, well, I mentioned that we train the leadership, we train our people manager, but we are now training our workforce. So it's a lot of challenge, because we know that each person, it's in a way, in we call it the inclusive journey, but it's important to give people, you know, tools and materials, because for us that are working with diverse, sometimes it's, everyone knows about it, but it's not a common thing, you know. People are still learning, are still understanding about those topics. So now we are in the phase to training, and we take advantage of some important moments in the year, for example, June as the Pride Month, or March, the Women's Month, to talk more about some, you know, diversity groups and some minority groups. And it's important again, because in what I heard a lot in our workforce is, oh, the first time that I learned it or I heard about it, it was in the Intel lecture or this internal event. So sometimes the company will be the only or the first, you know, contact with the employee with the subject. And people who learn, people who understand what we are talking, they can be more inclusive, they can bring diversity to the company, and because it's education, right? Also, so we need to, I think the company has this responsibility to educate people, and of course, not only the workforce, but the companies around, the community that we are in.
Thank you for that, Carolina. No, that's great. I'm so just looking at the time. We have one more question, so I think we have time to answer that. So Claudio is asking, how can you close the gap between having experience and having opportunity to practice the experience in the game market? So I think. And Claudio, if ever I don't understand your question correctly, please correct me in the chat. But I think maybe it's more the experience related to your studies. So whatever you've done in order to acquire sort of a basic knowledge of game development, of game design, and then sort of the opportunity to go out there and practice what you've learned. I think that's a challenge in a lot of markets, and I'm just wondering, maybe Carolina from Abra Games, if you have an opportunity to comment on.
I will answer very quickly and let Angela also answer that. So I would say start with game jams. You start making games. You don't have to be on a company, or you don't have to have a group to start making games. You can start by yourself doing. There are so many engines, so many tools, so many platforms where you can hang out with people, know more about it, learn tutorials, and just start gaming. Just start making. You can use game jams to start that, but you can also, you know, do at your own will, just studying, and start a portfolio. So on this one, I try to make, you know, a platformer. On this one, I try to make something cool with art. If this is something that you want to do as you know, a game developer, one army person, one army dev, you know. But if you want like programming or art, start doing based on what you want to do, not what you can do. Go for what you want to do, and because if you try to do things that you want, you know, I want to be a programmer on a big company, so you have to make a portfolio about that thing that you want, because otherwise you have a lot of, you will see for yourself that you have a lot of experience on other things, and what you want to do, you won't have the experience, and people won't hire you for that. They will hire you for what you have experience. So make your experience about what you want to be doing, right? If you still don't know what you want, then you can do whatever you'd like as you study. But you have to do it by yourself. And if you find someone or a company along the way, feel free. There are a lot of events and game jams and festivals in Brazil. But if you are abroad, or if you want to know more about that, you can, you know, get in contact with Abra Games, and we can help you out. And now I'll let Angela answer about Canada.
Mm-hmm. I agree with what Carolina has mentioned. I think really create a project aside. If it's programming, then you can prototype something. If it's art, you can really do all types of sketches and have your own website so that you show your work. When you arrive, because there's people that arrive empty, I mean, they have the resume, but no experience aside. This is an industry for passionate people. And passion is, I mean, there is no limit when you love what you do. And you just want to eat that every day, and you just want to give it all. And the people that are like that naturally are the ones that go the farther, because it's just in them, and they will develop their craft even if they start when they were not very good. And we're all start there, right? So it's not about being genius when you start. No, build it, as Carolina said. And I will also suggest go to a small company. The filter is easier to get hired. And I, like in my case, we hire a lot of people, and they were with us 6 months, 3 years, and they afterwards, and even besides their talent, they always got jobs in places that have better resources than I do. So I think targeting small companies is a great way to get experience. Most people, they just, they want this big one and this big one and the name because of the pedigree. Yes, that all is great, but their filters in their human resources departments are more difficult. And when you really need to prove is that you have the experience. So go to a small team, go to a small company, or create your own project. It will bring you where you want to go.
That sounds great. So I think just maybe we'll take a few minutes just to say a few closing remarks. I just wanted to take this opportunity. I don't know if she's still with us, but I mentioned at the beginning of the event that I'm co-chair of the Committee on Diversity and Inclusion, and the other co-chair with me is Esther Nunes. She was actually key in setting up this webinar. I'm sort of, I just show up and have this conversation with these really interesting women, but she worked with the CCBC team to put this together, and Celso as well from the Technology Committee. So thank you, Esther. Celso, I don't know if you want to say just a few lasting words before we leave our audience today.
Oh, I don't know. I saw her before the event starts, and she lives. Well,
no, I know she was. She had some. She had some last minute urgency that came up that I just wanted to mention it.
Okay, but I would like to thank everyone here, and especially Esther, who is not here now. It was amazing conversation we have today, and I think we go a step further in the direction to give to everyone who needs to understand more about diversity and inclusion new informations to make them think about it, especially for me. Who is not one of the I'm old school, I'm from the past, and I need to learn a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Celso. Thank you so much. So Carolina Gutierrez, Carolina Caravana, Angela Mejia, it's been really a pleasure talking with you today, and I hope we'll be able to continue this conversation.
Sure. Thank you very much for inviting us. It was really nice talking to you and exchanging experiences. And I hope to keep talking with all of you on other opportunities. So it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was really interesting. I really, you guys make me realize about other elements that have not crossed my mind. So I end up being a little bit richer in my experience in this difficult topic, and we're all moving forward. So good luck to everybody, and keep in touch. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you so much all for the invitation. It's a pleasure to talk about it, and I love because I learned a lot today. I take a lot of notes.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for everybody who joined us. Ciao.
Okay.